Hey everyone, and welcome to the stream. Welcome. Hope you're doing well, and I'm gonna quickly see if everything works fine. Yeah, the internet speed looks good. How are you doing, everyone? Let's actually bring this guy up. How about this guy? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you doing? Abu Zar Khan, how are you doing, Abu Zar? Is everything good? Oh, we can probably hide focus Doro. That's fine. And let's also bring this chat a bit up as well. Chat. There you go. Let's bring this up. How about this? Oh, this looks nice. Fixing stuff on production. Abu Dhar Khan, walaikum assalam. Fari Pari, walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Good. I'm good. Thank you for asking. It has been an interesting long day, but I think I'm doing good, and I'm happy about it. So I was hoping to work on some interesting things with Angular, in one of the projects that I'm working on, and maybe a bit on the Angular Cookbook as well. But I would rather work on the Angular app that I'm working on. It's a really cool product. We're using it even now, but it's interesting, and it's something that is going to be useful for a lot of people, but primarily for me. So I'm gonna show you that in a bit. Ali Ibrahim Subhan, wa alaikum assalam. Good to see you, bro. Angular best resource other than docs. I don't like readme docs. How to study from docs? Can you tell me? Rahul Arora. Rahul, if you have Amazon in your country, which I would assume it is, then what I would recommend to you is something like this guy. So if you go to codewithahsan.dev/ngbook, it takes you to a really cool resource with Angular that a lot of people like. About 44 people have said this is a 4.4 out of 5. 51% of said 5 stars, which means more than 22%, or 22 people. I know this guy personally. He's really cool. He knows Angular, and I think Google also says that he knows Angular. So I think I would trust this guy with Angular stuff. So having said that, how about we bring the chat here as well? So yeah, look at the Angular cookbook. I'm gonna reply to the chat right now. If I can find the response button, which should be right here. There we go. Now I see the chat, so I can remove this guy. Always fixing things in production. So this is the link. If you want to have a look at a good resource of Angular, try this out. Let me know in the feedback how you find it. But when it comes to documentation itself, I think the idea of going to Angular IO and looking at the documentation there would be to look into, if you go to try Angular, exploring your first application, I think that would be the main thing. You can also try to find something like Tour of Heroes. This one. So in here, this is the app that you would want to look at. Creating custom route matches, blah, blah, blah. Can I see the Tour of Heroes? Understanding Angular? No. Tutorials. Your first Angular app tutorial, Tour of Heroes. This is the one. So let me try to find the introduction, and I can share with you in the chat as well. 1 second. So let's put this right here. This is gonna be the one. सर आपके ख्याल में एंगुलर बेस्ट है या रिएक्ट? अबू सर इट रियली डिपेंड्स ऑन द टीम. सिर्फ हम इस चीज़ पे नहीं कह सकते कि यार सेब अच्छा है या मैंगो अच्छा है. तो डिपेंड करता है. इट डिपेंड्स ऑन लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स. इट डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हाट काइंड ऑफ टीम यू हैव. इट डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हाट काइंड ऑफ स्किल सेट यू हैव. इट डिपेंड्स ऑन how many people you can have in your engineering team, if you have a senior in your team or not, if you like TypeScript or JavaScript. There's so many things to discuss when it comes to React versus Angular. So yeah, it's really hard to say. There's no best one. Every one of them has their own consequences or benefits, so to say. Let's also do this view. Let's move that guy. And then we can also do some settings to make sure this stays up top. So appearance, I think this is appearance. Show viewer counter, blah blah blah, scale, blah blah blah. There should be notifications, text to speech. Nope. I know there's at least a setting in MacBook or macOS. This remains up top. Well, let's just use it like this for now. It's fine. So feel free to ask your questions about web development, Angular, and TypeScript in general. Challenge, what I want to do is actually to show you what the app that I'm working on. It's called pulsechecker.netlify.app. And this is something that I'm working on. So what I usually do with this is but actually let's go to the local version. So Visual Studio Code. I'm not really sure if I have that here, but maybe I have. We'll see. So let's go file, open recent. Oops. Open recent, and in here we should have pulse checker. इसको हम ज़रा इस तरीके से कर लेते हैं. So we should be able to look at the chat, and then we can also respond to the comments as well. ठीक है. So now what I want to do is to be able to open this. Let's open a terminal. And let me show you the app that we are working on. npm i no, not npm I. Maybe let's do a git pull क्योंकि हमारे पास we are 49 comments behind. So let's actually pull the code. Okay, we got a lot of stuff here. So let's do a yarn. In the meantime, I'm looking at the comments. Ishaq Khan कह रहे हैं पहले इंडियन कोडर मशहूर थे अब पाकिस्तानी कोडर्स का एरा शुरू होने लगा है. Ishaq, I don't really think it matters really, as long as someone is able to share information and someone is able to receive that. As long as people are getting benefit, I don't think कि पाकिस्तानी लोग मशहूर हों या इंडियन हो. Personally, to me, I don't think it matters. सर वन क्वेश्चन मोर प्लीज़ गुस्सा ना हो जो मेरे क्वेश्चंस की वजह से बट जस्ट एज अ ब्रदर पूछ रहे हैं इस DSA नेसेसरी वर्ड वेब डेवलपमेंट. अबू सर पहली चीज़ तो ये कि आई डोंट गेट एंग्री इस तरह के सवालात पे क्योंकि आई गेट दीज क्वेश्चंस ऑल द टाइम. तो आई एम वेरी फेमिलियर विद दीज क्वेश्चंस कम्प्लीटली. तो DSA necessary for web development depends on your team. If your company requires you to have it, then yes. If your job requires you to have it, then yes. But as a web developer, you might be in a team jahan pe you don't really need data structures and algorithms. But if you know them, it's obviously better. So it's like if you can be an average footballer or an average cricketer, or you could have some really cool moves. So similarly, if you know DSA really well, if you don't, you might even be able to get a job without DSA. So it's not something that you have to know. All right, I hope that makes sense. I'm working on Angular project in a company having experience of 6 months only. I'm not confident in Angular. I don't know why. If I have to learn Angular in depth, what should I do? Rahul, so as I mentioned, if you look at the Angular Cookbook, it has a lot of topics that you can use to improve your skills in Angular if you don't feel confident. On a side note, it really depends on how your company is also evaluating you. So we usually have something called an imposter syndrome, and I think this is an important topic to talk about. So we as developers have imposter syndrome all the time. And imposter syndrome is we feel like we don't belong to where we are. We feel like someone will find out that I'm not a really good coder or a really good programmer, and I'm faking it, so to say. So that's the imposter syndrome. So we feel like we're not good enough. And that happens to everyone, especially to those people who have skills. So if you feel like you're at the wrong place, you were just lucky that you got into this job or you got this far, know that you're not alone. I would say every good developer experiences the same thing, or every skilled person experiences this. And the key to get away from this is to get feedback. You get feedback from other people, you get feedback from your manager, you get feedback from your friends, your family, you get feedback on how you're doing from your peers, and then you don't feel like this. So maybe you're having imposter syndrome, which means that you don't really need to have absolute in-depth knowledge of Angular, or maybe you're not experienced enough, so you can then get into it. And I showed you one of the ways, the recommended way, so to say, which is basically just getting the Angular cookbook, and you can start working on that, because Angular cookbook itself has a lot of topics